Welcome to On Assignment.
with Eli and Patricia. You guys have probably already heard that Trump has been indicted. He is facing up to 100 years in jail. Is this real or is it a smokescreen?
Is it a smokescreen? That's the question that we really want to ask. And the reason why we're doing this video is because we found some very interesting and peculiar something peculiar with the timing of all this that we felt needed to be discussed, or if not, at least brought to light. Let's take a look at the first clip.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is also joining us this evening. And Congresswoman, I wanted to get you to comment on one of the points that I was just making with our previous panel. It seems there are more FD 1023s, these unclassified documents detailing multiple investigations of influence peddling, criminal influence peddling by the Biden family and Joe Biden himself that were revealed to James Comer and his staff today. Is it a coincidence, do you think, that on a day when the FBI finally comes clean about what they've got on Joe Biden, that all of a sudden we have an indictment of President Trump?
No, I don't think there's any coincidence. And I can tell you, Chris, you're absolutely right. I actually read the FD 1023 form today in the SCIF. And it's ironic it was in the SCIF because this 1023 form is unclassified. So I believe all the American people should be able to see it. But on the 1023 form that lays out in perfect detail and description from the FBI's top paid informant that they say is very credible, one of their most credible informants. It lays out all the truth that we knew all along, that you've reported on and many others, that Joe Biden was involved in pay-to-play schemes in Ukraine involving Burisma. And it says in very clear detail that Joe Biden was paid
There are no coincidences, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like they're doing this to take the heat off of Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that way, doesn't it? It seems like something is going on, and from on one hand, it's like a bait and switch. You know, one of the things that that I've come to realize is that whatever this particular party is guilty of, they will blame the other people, and they're able to do that and create this kind of social brainwashing that causes people to say that you're the bad guy when actually they're the bad guy. You know, now some people may say, well, you know what, they're all in, you know, it's kind of like there's really, you know, they're two sides of one coin, and for the most part I do believe that. I really do believe that. But what we're seeing now is something that we have never seen before.
It has never happened to another president. There's been so many other presidents that have done a lot more than Trump and have never had to answer for any of those things. And so it just seems a little bit sketchy that as soon as the Biden family is called into question, they now indict Trump.
They shift that blame, and the level of scrutiny that this the former president has been under has been something that has been polarizing a nation. You know, it's been a tool used to drive a wedge between people, which is something that we could expect from these kind of global elites and their sick, twisted think tank strategies, where they are. Listen, when it comes to social engineering, these guys are on a whole nother level. They operate think tanks with the brightest minds, all centered around bringing in the kind of totalitarian undermining and contention that we see happening across the globe, right? All these come out of these think tanks to where they sit and say, how can we be as evil as possible, right? How can we be as evil and as sinister as possible? And we see some of this, a lot of people saying, well, you know what, it's hard to find out. Sometimes it can be difficult to find out where that line is and who's on which side and this, that, and the other. But one of the things that I believe is this: look, you look at who they hate. You look at who they hate and the tactics and the extremes that they will go to. You might want to consider the possibility that he may not be in alignment with them.
Right. And I mean, they love to lie and change narratives all the time. And you have to ask yourself, why are they doing this?
Right.
What type of narrative are they trying to get people to join in with? And sad to say, there's a lot of people that are still for this particular administration. But let's just take a look at what Biden had to say about this.
We just have to demonstrate that he will not take power by if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
He caught himself. We're just going to make sure he doesn't become president. Well, how are you going to do that? What if he gets more votes? And then he talks about, well, the legitimate confines of the Constitution. No, they're out to get him. And this is the pattern. They do something outrageous. They've been doing it, well, for 8 years. It's 8 years ago this month that Donald Trump came down that escalator. They try to sabotage his campaign. They try to sabotage his presidency, the phony impeachments, all of this nonsense to distract us, today at least, from what he's accused of doing. Joe Biden. Joe Biden is credibly accused of accepting $10 million from officials in Ukraine. Yes, Ukraine. New evidence. The FBI presented today to the House Oversight Committee. Joe's reaction is telling. Check it out.
The bribery allegation, Congresswoman Nancy Mace says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out the country. Do you have a response to the congressional Republicans?
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
It's a bunch of malarkey.
Where is the money? Almost reminds me of the that commercial back in the day. Where's the beef? Like, it's in your pockets, man. That's where the money is. Right. In them diversified accounts you got. Anywho, you know, what I find that requires a lot of prayer, a lot of clarity. And even if you're approaching it, and it can be hard to discern because things get so muddied, and you can listen to one or one particular form of news outlets, and they're saying one thing. You listen to another one, they're saying another thing. But when I see this concerted effort, and this concerted effort is the problem, because we know that the world is evil. We know that the machine itself, and when the machine always pushes one way, instinctively, I want to go the opposite.
Correct.
Right? And so when the whole machine, and I'm talking about not just from media, but from entertainment, when everybody hates your guts, something is not right there, right? Because there's usually a balance to their tit for tat, or their fake aggression against one another. There's usually a balance there where you got some people who like you, some people who don't, right? And it keeps a balance, right? And so they create this divide, but they keep a nice balance, and they go and their friends, you know, after. But this is something different. I've never seen the amount, the level of vitriol leveled against somebody where the entire machine is working in concert to tear somebody down. This is something that we haven't seen. This is next level.
Next level. And you know what? I want to make something clear. We're not taking sides here.
No.
We're always looking and listening to what the
Right.
Lord has to say about this.
Right.
But it just, again, seems really odd and really sketchy for them to do that right at a precise moment when they just called the Biden family into question. And I feel like what they're doing right now is exactly what Biden said. They're making a way for him to never become president again. That's what this whole thing seems to be about. They don't want him back in office.
Why would they be so afraid of that? Why would they be so afraid of that? And I think this would shed a little light on their thinking. Let's roll this next film.
Well, think about what 4 years of a retribution presidency might look like. He could order the investigation and prosecution of individuals who he sees as enemies. I'm sure I'm on the enemies list. because the president constitutionally does oversee the executive branch entirely, which includes the Department of Justice, prosecutors and investigators. And so he could commission, direct that individuals be pursued. He could also direct all kinds of other conduct that people would maybe take to court to try to stop. But who enforces court orders? Mm-hmm. Mostly the United States Marshals Service, which is in part of the executive branch and reports to the president. And so President Trump could say, I don't care what the Supreme Court says or these district judges say. I'm telling the Marshals Service, don't enforce the court order. And so our Constitution really does give a rogue president, which is what this would be, tremendous power to destroy. And so that's why I'm trying to warn people. Given the way he said he intends to operate if he's reelected, this will be something we could never have imagined. Again, it seems like science fiction in a way, but it's what another 4 years of Donald Trump really promises, which is why people criticize CNN for their town hall. I want the American people to stare at the threat that we're facing and understand that they cannot take the next election off.
Very interesting. This is coming from two people who are less than honorable, who love to change the narrative every chance they get. Now, why are these two so afraid of Trump? Why do they not want him to become president again? That's
a great question. For those of you who don't know, this is the same, the former FBI director who, when a certain Secretary of State was caught with classified emails, who wasn't and had them held in an unlawful way. He not only confirmed that the actions were illegal, but he said, you know what, I don't know one prosecutor willing to take up this case, so our recommendation is to let it go. Remember that. And I say that because right now you hear this sentiment that nobody is above the law. And I think one of the worst things that's happened to people is people have undergone a systematic psychological brainwashing to where they are no longer able to link two thoughts together. Mm-hmm. They are no longer able to recall matters that once happened before so that they can be critical thinkers. They have been captured by the now, and so there's no ability to be able to vet the things that they're hearing. And so every time they hear something from somebody, it's like they're hearing something for the first time, and they don't remember what just happened. Last month, last week, last year. They're unable to recall. So even if somebody says a week ago, 2 weeks ago, or a year ago, hey, no, they were wrong, and you see them clearly get away, and then now you're like, well, nobody's above the law. It's like, well, hold on, everybody is above the law. And that's where you see the distinction, because in this, one of the things that we know for sure, that in that whole arena, that whole government arena, everybody operates above the law. Right? And even if something happens, right, when you're on usually when you make it to that level, right, all these people operate. Their job fundamentally requires them or creates the opportunity for them to advance themselves politically, financially, right? And all these things are and their means and methods to achieve these things are not above board.
Correct.
But they cover for each other. They do these things that when they're caught, right, they let each other slide. But this, you see a persecution, not even just on things that were done. You're talking about things that were fabricated. They're walking into courts and saying, hey, let's try to convict this guy and get get this guy out of the way. Let's try to convict him, impeach him, whatever have it, by means that not only are basically they just don't exist. And that's the problem. That's the real problem. Those are the things that, for me, create difficulty for me. Those are the things that create difficulty, because at the end of the day, like my wife said, it's not about choosing sides, but it's about looking for the truth. Because I think one of the things that I wanted to say is, I think where people miss it is that look at how they did this. They say, okay, look, we're gonna to this point, all politicians had to be was politicians, and you look for the best policies. But you know what they did with Trump? They said, okay, look at his character, look at his what's in, which are all important things, right? But then if you look at the previous presidents and their character and their things like that, right? And it was never brought up to be a question. And so they were like, okay, look, there's some moral issues here, there's some moral issues here. And it's like, okay, look, right? They made that an issue. But the biggest issue, because they really don't care about his moral
Correct.
compass. They don't care because they are the most unmoral, right? They don't care about that. That's not the issue, right? The biggest issue that they have is the biggest threat that he has been is whether or not he is on board with their agenda.
Correct.
You see, you notice how as soon as he got out of office, we went into war. Right? They have a plan for America. So when he comes with this idea of his agenda for America, they're like, no, that don't fit with our plans. And so you become an enemy to us because you are an enemy to the plan. And we're gonna by any means necessary, you have to be removed because the plan for America needs to be carried out. And I think that's what makes him the biggest enemy. And I don't think people see the value in his position. All he had to do was be against what they wanted to do. And guess what? That would be an extreme win and a godsend for us and for the world because of the reverberation that it would have. True. Not allowing their plan to succeed here would affect their ability for their plan to succeed elsewhere because of the role that America plays in the world.
That's right. And, you know, one of the differences with Trump is that he already had money coming into office. He was already a millionaire, billionaire, whatever he is.
Yeah.
So they could not control him and use him as a puppet like they do everyone else. And that was a big problem for them. Just like my husband just said, they don't like that. They like to be able to control and bribe and do all these kind of things, and they couldn't do that with him.
But you know that this, at the end of the day, this is our perspective. You know, these are the things that we've seen. These are the things that we observe, and you know, we try to keep an objective perspective unless the Lord speaks to us. And so, just from this perspective, we want to kind of show kind of what we see because you never can take what they say at face value. You never can. You're dealing with an evil establishment, and it would be a foolish thing to take everything they say and even the information that they put out. But once we saw this convergence between the documents being released or Congress being given access to the documents relating to this administration's family, and then the same day right after that, before that can kind of become a big story, we're automatically hit with an even bigger story, which is now Trump being indicted. And I thought that was very suspicious, and I don't believe that was done on coincidence.
Right. So let us know what you guys think.
Yes.
Share your comments in the comments section.
Yes.
Share our video. Subscribe to the channel. And remember, God is always in control.
And we're on assignment.